first line of defense. If everyone got good sleep and also got outside, got fresh air and some movement, man, think of how much better our world could be, right?
Exactly. Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from Prince George, British Columbia. Prince George, for all those guests watching us from around the world, is the center, nearly the center of British Columbia, about 800 kilometers north of Vancouver, and another 800 kilometers towards the border of the Yukon Territory. And from east to west, north to south, big province. We have a special guest today, and her name is Angela Shymanski.
You got it.
Did I say the correct
Angela?
Angela?
Yep.
Angela, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, you have an interesting background. Are you originally from BC or northern BC?
Yep. My family moved here to the area when I was about 5 years old. So my roots are here in Prince George.
In Prince George?
Yeah.
And then you got your training here in Prince George?
No, I actually moved away to Medicine Hat, Alberta.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the
place.
Yeah. And then my husband, he was actually going to school in Calgary. So it was a couple hours away there, and we had a little bit of a long
His name is Travis?
Yep.
Travis.
Exactly.
So what did you get your training in medicine, huh?
Child and youth care counseling, actually.
Okay.
So then I came back here and I worked at the youth prison, the youth correction center, which actually they announced this week is...
I just heard that today. They
are
closing it and centralizing it in Burnaby, which is down the lower mainland.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked by that, actually.
Yeah, I think it's actually a good thing. They're coming away from that sort of work, like, you know, children, they're using different methods to help rehabilitate.
What are children, this for the purposes of?
Yeah, I think with the corrections facility, it's from 12 to 18, like anyone under 19 would be in that facility. But now, you know, they have different programs. They realize that they can have them in community getting like counseling and services like that rather than the prison type. Yeah,
so what impression that I got as a lay person that really doesn't understand other than that youth need help now more so than ever before, I believe, and it implied to me a negative, but that's not really so. It's the opposite.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we've come a long way in realizing what methods work better for helping these youth get past these, maybe they've made a mistake, and, you know, being in a correctional facility, it's not really a thing anymore. Yeah, as much.
So that could involve not criminal things, but more.
I think it is criminal. Yeah, it would be like youth that have criminal charges. Although I haven't worked in that field for no. 15 years, so I don't really know the ins and outs. But it was that same facility that they announced is closing that I worked at. So
that was your specialty that you got your training for?
Sort of, and then I ended up, I was a lifeguard and swimming instructor, and I was working in the corrections facility was not my jam.
Right.
And
it's delicate, difficult.
Yeah, it was really heavy, hard,
emotionally
harsh.
difficult.
Yeah. So I started a swim school, and I had about 250 students, and I did first aid training and lifeguarding for camps and field trips and things, and that just was my thing. I loved it so much.
So you found your passion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so then from there on in, what are you doing now, or what did you then do after that?
Well, so then in 2015, I was in a really bad car accident.
So that was pretty well heard around the world, actually, because there was something special about it that you drove a car from Calgary to Prince George. It was July 2015, and in the car was Lexi, your daughter, then 5 years old, and a baby son. And tell us what happened.
Yeah, so we went over this embankment, and little tiny Lexi, she woke up to the baby crying. He was 10 weeks old, and she couldn't wake me up. And so she got out of her 5-point harness car seat. She had to kick open the door because all the airbags were off in this vehicle. And she hiked up the highway. It was right by Jasper, barefoot.
So that's the big highway.
Yep, main highway in Canada.
Yeah,
and
that is highway number 1,
yep,
right?
hottest day of the year apparently on record.
Right.
And she flagged down help. Yep.
So that must have been quite something if you see a 5-year-old there, the cars are going by there at 100 to 120 kilometers an hour.
Yep.
And then to stop, if I would see it, I would give me a shock of what's going on. But then stopping your car on a main highway, dangerous, right?
Yep. Because and there was no cell service in that area.
No.
So this family from Alaska,
oh my God.
I know, this family from Alaska, they actually, the mom saw it in the, in the rearview mirror, just a little glimpse of her.
You going off the road?
No, the little girl on the side of the highway. Yeah. And she said to her husband, "Oh my goodness, we need to pull over." And then here they come upon the scene of the accident, and there's no way for them to call 911 even.
No.
Yeah.
So what had happened, and I know that reading some of your stuff, you fell asleep.
Well, that's what we thought initially.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was just guessing.
Yeah.
But actually, later on, I have one of these smartwatches. I had an Apple Watch.
It's a good thing.
Yep, and I kept getting this alert on my Apple Watch, and we found out later that I had a heart rhythm problem. So it's quite possible that I had a little episode.
Yeah, yeah.
And now on medication, implanted heart monitor. So.
Oh yeah. So that it was a medical thing.
Yeah. So I definitely. I mean, it's hard to know, but I don't think I fell asleep now.
No.
Yeah.
But so then. The car went off the road, a 40-foot, and this was not just a little bit of a ditch.
No, it was far down there.
And then you hit a tree on the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you're alive.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I was like half a centimeter away from being paralyzed.
So it knocked you out.
Yep.
Then Lexi somehow had to unstrap us, 5 years old, unstrap herself from her seat.
Yep.
What is your little boy's name?
Peter,
was crying.
Yeah.
She got out, had to the car was upside down.
Yep.
Which could kind of mean that you can't even open the doors.
Oh no. When she talked about it when she was little, she would say, "Yeah, I had to really kick open the door," and we were quite shocked.
And then she had to get to you, and obviously you were out, unconscious, and so what did she do first? Is try to wake you up, likely, and then she had to, in her bare feet, had to crawl up a 40-foot bank.
Yep.
To try to alert somebody to help.
Yep, exactly.
40 foot.
Yeah, yep, barefoot. And she got a bravery medal from the Canadian government, and it was an incredible ceremony. And here's this tiny little girl, and she's getting the same award that policemen, fire, people who that's their actual job. It's still incredible that they did the act of bravery, but that's their job, and they're a grown adult. And she's just this tiny little thing collecting her medals. So
I still remember, I didn't remember all the details about it, but I still remember that making an impression because, so just to take it just a little bit further, so the people from Alaska stopped.
Yep.
Then what happened?
The dad, he managed to get down to the car and got the baby out. He actually was a linesman, some sort of job where he was used to climbing power poles. So it wasn't a big deal for him to get down there. And then the next people who stopped, that man happened to be, he had been a firefighter in a previous. So he managed to stop.
Unbelievable.
I know, it's just like the perfect people.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, and so then they were able to get, highways had come and they had a satellite phone. And so then that's how the call to 911 went out.
In the meantime, all the cars are flying by there like...
like having no idea that this is all happening. Yep. Amazing.
And so then he got down. Now, were you still out?
Oh yeah, I was resuscitated twice. Yep.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then what happened? So now people are down by your car.
Yep.
You know, your daughter is okay.
Yep.
You know, your son is okay, but you're still out. So now the fellow from Alaska and the firemen are down. Did they loosen? Because you must have been hanging upside down.
Yeah, well, it was kind of sideways, I guess. And they knew not to move me. They unhooked because the car was smoking and things like this, but they knew not to move me because of their, you know, knowing the injuries to my spine that could be. And so then the police and the fire medics, they used ropes and the spine board and everything to get me out properly.
Right.
Thank goodness, because had somebody just quickly decided to try to get me out themselves, I would...
Which would not be uncommon to do, right?
Right, but because he had that knowledge, he just made sure I was stable and... Yeah.
So they got you out. How long did it take for them to come down at 911? Must be
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't even actually have memory of, you know, my little son was 10 weeks old.
Yeah.
My memory of the first 10 weeks of his life and even the end of my pregnancy all got wiped out and it's never come back. So that's why when I'm telling the story, it's like telling a story because I don't remember any of it.
You.
No, exactly. I read about it in the... Yeah.
So they got you out and then they got you to the hospital. And then from there and then, I saw a picture of you in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, then it took time for you. Now you knew when you woke up, were you aware that your daughter was in the car with you and your son?
Yeah.
So they gave you comfort that they were okay. And then from there and then, it was a question of, you know, obviously letting Trevor know, and then at the same time, you know, then it was a question of getting you under control because it was very, very serious. Yeah,
and you know, so we were airlifted. I was airlifted to Edmonton, to the University Hospital of Alberta, and they actually, they're only supposed to have one patient on the helicopter, but they squeezed Lexi in because they didn't know what to do with her.
Yeah,
and it was good. And then Peter actually went by ambulance. And so my husband arrived, he flew to Edmonton, he was at the hospital. You're just waiting for this baby to come. I mean, they don't have ID on them, or you're hoping they end up at the right hospital. Yeah. And they discharged the baby and he was just crying and throwing up. And my husband said, I don't feel comfortable taking the baby home or to the hotel.
No.
It turned out he had a brain bleed and he needed brain surgery, our little 10-week-old baby.
Ooh.
So while that's all happening, I'm in the trauma unit and they're telling me, oh, don't worry, your baby's okay, like trying to keep me calm. But really, the baby was in a very dire situation. Yeah. And then we spent some time in Alberta. We all came home. This community was incredible. There was meals, there was help with the kids. It was just phenomenal. It really made me proud to be from
July, August 2015, right? So, yeah, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since that time, and you know, the kids are doing well, and obviously Tris is 12 now, and
Lexi, she's 13 and Peter's 8. And they're in so many activities, and great,
amazing.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happened is you were a very popular show of Dr.
Oz.
Dr. Oz. That was very, very popular in North America already, and maybe in other places. Had you on as a guest.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. We got to fly to New York, and
it
was fun for my little daughter to have a little bit of...
And Tris was with you on the show, and very, very popular, right, show?
Yeah, it was
quite an experience.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that kind of brings us, now you're back in Prince George, and after the accident, it took time to recover, obviously, and then from there on in, you took a different direction in terms of what you're doing as a result of all the trauma that went with it, and the experience of that, and with Peter, you know, at 10 weeks old already, having brain surgery for all intents and purposes, and all of that, and then getting exposure to that and knowing how important it is that if things happen or go wrong, that kind of changed your life too, didn't it?
Oh yeah, and the reason why we chose the Dr. Oz show is because it was going to be a teaching aspect, like to show, like, teach your kids what to do in scary situations. And so same thing when we came back from Edmonton, and once life got settled down, I was really determined to give back to the medical community.
Right.
And so we did some fundraising for the hospital and for Child Development Center. But another thing that I fell into was doing standardized patient acting for the Northern Medical Program.
Yeah.
And that is where the medical students that are training in our city.
So just for our international guests, and that the Northern Medical Program is a program in the northern region of British Columbia, center being Prince George, that deals with issues relating to medical services as they relate to the public, to making sure that there are docs available for the community, and a whole lot of things directly, indirectly related to the well-being of the population.
Yeah, so that the Northern Medical Program is the 4-year medical education that doctors have to take
At UNBC, the University of Northern British Columbia.
Yep, exactly. And so then when they're in their 3rd and 4th year, they need to do exams.
Yeah.
Standardized exams.
And do practicum.
And so they have these people who are acting. You take a role, you pretend that you have a medical condition, and then it's a way of them having a special kind of training.
Right.
Yep.
So the medical program is relatively new. UNBC, is a freestanding university in Northern British Columbia, and we have universities all throughout BC, UBC in the Lower Mainlands, and then in Victoria, the capital of British Columbia, and then UNBC. How long ago was it? About 30 years ago, 25 years ago?
So,
that the community. I was here then, and so were you, and a lot of people worked very, very hard to get a freestanding university for Northern BC for all the reasons that we just talked about. Is that it is expanding, and we need people to being trained and educated here that then will stay likely in the region. The interesting part about us sitting here is that we were, and the other day I had a meeting in our the Brink group of companies around our boardroom table. Everybody was alumni of the university, including myself. I have got an honorary doctorate of, so it is so important. And then probably 10, 15 years ago, we got then an extension to the University of Northern British Columbia, and there's the medical program where we train our docs here. And with the objective, obviously, to make sure or try to have them stay in Northern BC in particular.
Exactly. And I mean, there is a doctor shortage.
Major. For
sure. It's a real problem. And so they finish their 4-year medical education.
Right.
And then they go into a 2-year residency.
Correct.
And so in our community, we have at any given time about 30 resident doctors who are working in our community.
Right.
But how can we get them to stay? Right. They get matched here. Some of them come from overseas.
Right.
Right. And just like you coming to Canada, what made you stay in Prince George?
Right.
Community, connection, friendships, right?
Opportunity.
And so we need them to form those community connections.
The other part that makes us stay here, and I mention it virtually through all my podcasts that go right around the world, is that it is likely, a unique location here. I believe somebody was born in Holland in 1940 actually, and then came here when he was 23, 24 in that area, and it is the most beautiful place in the world, a place of opportunity, and especially if you now look around the world, all the problems in Europe, the Ukraine, and the Middle East, and all the problems, we are very, very lucky where we are. And then in Canada, British Columbia is unique because it's an amazing province, large, and then northern BC, which is so unique and so much wildlife, and all around us within 20, 30 miles, we got probably 100 lakes, and as we sitting downtown Prince George here, within a couple of minutes from here, we can see moose, we see deer, we see black bears, and they're relatively harmless, but unless you obviously walk between them and they're young.
They're baby.
And then we see grizzlies, we see foxes. All of that we can see here within a very short distance. So, and especially past COVID, where people live in these concrete buildings, the perfect place to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's places like northern British Columbia.
Out on the trails.
Why would you want to go here? Well, because it's nature.
Yeah.
It is so a land, an area of opportunity, and that applies to every profession or every one that is looking for a job and a career.
Exactly. And so when those, when the doctors are here, we think, if we can just get them outside of the hospital where they have long hours and they're, overnight, we can get them out and seeing all that Prince George has to offer and the northern BC, get them exploring trails and our ski hills and cross-country skiing and
all of
the
that.
Lakes and everything. And then also friendships and, connections with small businesses. If we can get that, they'll want to stay here. And then, it's just one piece of the bigger, problem, but hopefully we can have an impact.
You see, the shortage of dogs is not a problem, in my opinion, that is unique to northern British Columbia.
Not at all.
It's a problem in North America and the rest of Canada, and I see it around the world, right? And then the question becomes, when I grew up in Holland and being born in 1940, obviously we had the war years, which were really challenging, and then people trying to put their life back together after the war may take up to a generation. And a lot of people think that if there is a war, then when the war is over, everything is back to normal. No. That's not so.
No.
In fact, totally to the contrary. It will change probably in some cases a generation or longer before it gets back to a sense of normal. But I remember from my mom, who had challenges physically, that the dog would come and visit our house to attend to my mom, or my mom would call, and if she could see the dog, and then they would come down and see her, and and that was very normal then.
I think it's coming back, home visits.
Is it?
Yeah. There's a new payment model with for the doctors. Of course, I'm no expert in this, but I know that they're actually, their time spent doing paperwork and things like this is now being compensated. And I a lot of the doctors that I talk to do home visits still. I actually, after our car accident, we had a hospital bed in our living room. I had my doctors come to my house too.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's like, it's just such a special piece of care.
So, the other part that I found is with my mother in particular is that in Holland, the medical system was okay, then more direct attention, and then obviously more recently here in the last 10, 15 years likely, it has become increasingly more difficult for dogs to locate in areas that are not the major centers. And again, I'm simply making an observation from the outside and saying that both my wife in particular, and myself, we are more knowledgeable, likely, because of information. And then my wife is very proactive in terms of healthy lifestyles and living. Actually, I'm doing a book right now.
Oh, another book.
I like what you say.
I already am behind. I've read the first two, but I'm already behind here. And now I'm like, oh no, there's going to be another one I'm going to be behind. Yeah, I haven't read that one yet.
I'm going to get you a copy of this one. The one that we're pointing at, this one here. I'm going to show it to my...
Yep, yeah.
Can I do that just now?
Yeah.
So this one here, Against All Odds, you got a copy of
Yep,
it. Did I
have
sign
that one.
it? Yeah.
I don't know if it... Yeah, I think it is signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one is more an autobiography and not so much about hurrah, hurrah, how successful John is. Just the opposite. It's going through all the ups and downs and the difficult challenges and the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything is in here. And with an autobiography, it's academically, I was not a success story. I failed grade 3. And I failed grade 7 3 times. And then he said, what are we going to do with this guy in Holland? Maybe we have to send him to the mentally challenged school.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't do that. My parents were very beautiful people and cared deeply about us, obviously, as kids. He said, we should get him a career and maybe as a furniture maker. And so they sent me to a furniture factory and then at nights to the college, and I became a furniture maker.
So good, eh?
But with kids, a lot of times all the friends that I had that went to school with me, all went to college and then the university and on, and I became a laborer, which I'm proud of now, but then it was kind of looked down at. Anyway, so apparently I'm a very good reader.
Oh yeah, it was too short. I wanted more.
So this book again is, talking about that. So it took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, and 2 years to write it. And against all odds, and it's been quite successful. Still is very successful. Then the other part is about me is that it was in 1997 when I walked into a store here in town, Books on 4th and on 3rd, I think.
Yeah, Books on 3rd, and then they moved to 4th. And then it was Books on 4th now, or Books on 3rd now on 4th or something, yeah.
Correct. I like that. Yeah, so I walked into the store in 1997 and I opened the book, Driven to Distraction. I don't know why I opened it. And it was about ADHD. Yeah. And I said, oh my God, that's me.
Oh.
And I bought the book, I wrote in the book in Dutch, because I was ashamed of it. Now I finally know who I am. And so by then I was 57. And then it took me 5 years before I went to my doc, who was a personal friend, and delivered our 2 daughters. Yeah. And he said to me, why are you here, John? I said, I think I got ADHD. And so we both looked at it, and yeah, I have ADHD. And then I didn't talk about it too much because I'm building a lumber companies and doing all the other things in business. And if I go to the bank and say, I'm proposed to, write me a loan for a couple of million or whatever the case may be, and this is the proposal, and by the way, I have ADHD, and they would say, well, have a nice day, right? So
that's what people, that stigma was so strong.
Then. Less so now, but still it is there. So I felt I had to talk, I started talking about it more, and then the more I talked about it, the more I felt that more and more people, had the same issues, but they really didn't speak about it, or in their circle, or in their friends, and so I felt I had to write a book about it. So I did that, and it's called ADHD Unlocked, and it is written for ADHD in particular. You can open up anywhere, go one way or the other to read it, and it's typical for ADHD, but it kind of tells a story about individuals. Actually, the one that wrote the foreword on it is a good friend of mine, Dr. Tracy Lotz, and who's a medical doctor and a surgeon, actually, and also ADHD.
Exactly. A lot of a lot of doctors, a lot of incredible people.
Entrepreneurs and incredible people, as you said.
Yeah.
And what I always say about ADHD in the books, not only my book, but the other books as well, Driven to Distraction, was driven by Dr. Halliwell, and actually he's going to be a guest.
No
he was
way.
supposed to be a guest last week, but he didn't feel well.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so he's scheduled to be a guest in the next week or so.
Okay, you better get him to sign his book.
He sent me all these books, and
that's so good.
yeah, and again, that's the book that I picked up 57 years ago, changed my life.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, so that's going to be a good one. But what I say about ADHD is for people that have challenges with the traditional way of teaching and learning and attention issues, but it also, I believe, applies to people that are affected by trauma and other issues that may directly or indirectly be relating to the time to be educated. So what I say is everybody should read books like this, because you will have it in your circle, direct, indirect, in your friends or around the world. The frequency of occurrence is thought to be around 8%. I think it's well in excess of 20%.
Wow. Yeah.
And to understand people that are ADHD related issues, you should read the book, because those people are different but interesting. And a lot of them are very, very successful. I call it a superpower.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I couldn't have done what I did unless it was for that reason.
Yeah, 100%.
So that is this book here, and available audio as well on all major media.
Did you read the audio or?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
cool.
did myself. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it when the author does the audio.
Yeah.
It's
So we did it with the rest of my team, Andrew and Scott. Yeah, so we did it, so that to me was very, very important, and I do it with all my books.
Cool.
And then the other thing that I found, and you mentioned it in your introduction or the early part of our conversation, is that you found your passion, and I find a lot of people, they said, I really don't like my job much. I said, well, why don't you change?
yeah.
They say, well, I got a mortgage and the kids and that and all the other reasons. So, but if you don't like your job, then the whole environment around you is affected by it.
Exactly.
So I felt I had to write a book about it. So I wrote a book about it, and it is this one, Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream.
Love it.
I'm going to sign one for
Thank
you,
you.
obviously, as well.
Thank you.
And that goes with, I saw a program on either CBC or CNN last couple of weeks in the United States. They say up to 70% of the population do not like their
It's
jobs.
so sad.
And 75% of the 70% are looking for another job. That's what I say. How unfortunate,
I remember in the hospital in Edmonton, there was a gentleman who came every day to change the garbages and sweep.
Yeah.
And he was so joyful and loved his job, and he would have, and it made me, because in those early moments of that, you're thinking, oh, what am I going to do? I have this swim school that I love so much, and this is now, who knows if I can even walk. And just seeing him in the hospital, joyful about what some people might think is a mundane sort of job, it made me realize, you know what, you can find joy in anything, which is really important.
Exactly.
But also, about that is if you love the work you do, you won't work a day in your life, right? And
Exactly.
And so for our children, we put them in every activity. We want to, give them a little introduction to stuff, but we also want them to find that passion early. So I'm going to read this to my 13-year-old.
And so when I was still young in Holland, and then I was working, and my dad was managing a small lumber company for somebody else, and and I spent time working there as well before. And then when I was 18, I went into the Air Force for 30 months, and which was quite an education. But then when I was still working, my dad had a planerman that was running the planer mill, and he was an older fella, and he didn't drive, and I had to pick him up in the mornings, take him to work, and then drive him back home again at nights. Now, but what's interesting, I say an older fella, he was much younger than I am now at 83, but then to me he was older fella, and so then 5, 6 o'clock or whatever the time was, I would pick him up. So I would go to the planer mill, and then I would watch him, because I wouldn't call him and say, here I am, he was delicate.
Yeah.
And so he would be there, and he would be rubbing the machinery and cleaning it up.
Yeah.
And then as he walked away, already knowing that I would be there, he would stand there and turn around and look at the equipment.
Just with
And,
pride.
and he would stand there for a minute and 2 minutes sometimes. And I thought, what the heck is he looking at?
Yeah.
But he was proud of it. And then he would go in the car with me, and I would say, how are you doing? He'd say, good. And that's all he would say. And then for the rest of the drive, and then I drop him off, and I pick him up in the morning, and I say, good morning, and he'd get good morning, and that's all. And then he'd go back. But what it taught me is precisely what you were saying, is that he loved the job that he was doing. Yeah. That was his passion. And sometimes that part, a lot of times right now, is missing with the younger people. The other thing that I did is that we were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945. Yeah. And it made such an impression on me, the Canadians, that I always knew that I would go to Canada, to the land of my heroes.
And how old were you when that happened?
When that happened, I was then 5.
Wow.
4 and a half, 4, so, but I remember things from even the time that it was 3 and a half, hundreds of planes in the air. It always stayed with me. And then hunger, the winter 1944 and 1945 was the hunger winter. And I can still feel the feeling of hunger. And cold. It was the coldest winter on record. A lot of young people died and older people died. And anxiety, because my dad was drafted into the Dutch Army, and the last in April of 1945 and 1940, the start of the war, and the last time that they saw him was in Rotterdam, just before they bombed it, and thousands of people died. So they didn't know if he was dead or alive for at least 5 years. So my mom had 3 kids.
Oh, it's unreal.
So that always kind of stayed with me. I still, even now, PTSD from that period. And then I got counseling for the inner child in my 50s. Very emotional, actually.
Yeah.
And
hard work, but good to do.
Yeah. So, but the other part that I did then, coming back to the issue of finding your passion, my dream was to go to Canada. Then my dream was, because I felt I was not successful in Holland. Yeah. Because in Holland, the way it works is that obviously at some point you hope to get married, and then you have a family, you have a house and a career. And then if you want a career, then you apply for a job, and the first thing you say, okay, well, the interesting bit are your diplomas. Well, I had no diplomas. Yeah. So I felt I had to start over new again to prove to myself that I could. I always had the feeling I can, well as others, but so I applied for immigration in July of 1965, and then left Holland with 1 suitcase, 2 sets of clothes, 3 books, and $150 when I left Amsterdam. And then came to Vancouver. And in Vancouver, once with the immigration office, I couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job. And fortunately, there was a German fellow, and I could speak some German. And I told him what I wanted to do is build my own lumber mill. And he said, Prince George, 1965. That's when they're building sawmills and planers and pulp mills, and that's where the opportunities are. So when I came off the Greyhound bus here, I had $25.47. But even more important, what I did have is attitude, passion, work ethic, and then avoid the negatives. I always, no matter how tough it is today, I will swear it'll be better tomorrow. And then the passion is that find things that you like and that you like to do. And even now at 83, I still get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I always think I'm late. I'm always making my bed.
Yeah, that's so
and
good.
and I love what I'm doing, all the
That's
things
so
that I'm
good.
doing. And then work ethic. I still work 60, 70 hours a week, and I love it, you know,
Yeah.
and I love to do that. And I believe that is so important.
And do you ever, like that gentleman on the plane, or do you ever just stop and look and have that
I do that.
pride? Good.
I
That's
do
so
that,
good.
and I understand now why he did that. Right. The other part that the other book that I'm working on
Yeah.
is that should be out by next July,
Okay.
and it goes to the issue that we are talking about: is living young, dying old, and what it really means. And the reason for the book is that it is not about age, it's about quality of life.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how do you get there, and what do you do, and how do you go about it? And in particular, I'm fortunate my wife is very, very proactive. She is vegan.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and I call myself 80-20, and but has obviously you know, substantial influence on what I do from a medical perspective.
Yeah.
So create awareness in what we eat, stay active. You know, I go to the gym, and I've been competitive bodybuilder,
Yeah,
but you
so
don't
good.
have to quite go to, but at least spend,
Yeah.
most people spend at least a half an hour a day
Yeah.
being active, if it is walking, whatever you do, and then be aware of your health in terms of food or diet, and then mental health and well-being directly relating to whatever you do. Enjoy what you're doing, at least most of the times, and you know, and those kind of things are very, very important. And then also the other part about it is that about the medical system that we have, and then a question of where will it go from where we are now, and then being more proactive in understanding, becoming aware, because we all got Google virtually,
Yeah.
and then knowing that at some point in life, the earlier the better, but at least say 30, 40, then start looking at the diet, you know, being healthy, you know, because it has an immense influence of where you go. I know so many people that are in their 40s, 50s, they say, well, you know, I can't do that anymore, I'm too old now, and this, or lay on the couch and watch TV, or and say, no, you know, there's no reason.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to get to where I'm 120.
I hope so.
So,
Yeah.
but, you know, the being conscientious about diet,
Yeah.
and then well-being, and physical exercise. So at the same time, you know, that's what the book deals with, issues around that.
Good.
And also in terms of more in terms of hormones and all the things that are on the outside of what we see as the medical system,
Yeah.
that go beyond what we are used to.
The whole person.
The other part that I wonder about sometimes is that, will we really change the fact that doctors are not available? I know several docs that are frustrated with the system, and then, you know, I see some of the medical clinics that we have that are, you know, the lineup of people.
Oh, it's so sad. Yeah.
It is so. Correct me if I'm wrong, at least in my opinion, and I've been very fortunate, you know, that we had a doc, and the doc that, and he passed away, unfortunately, already quite a while ago, that was part of our family in a way, but, you know, but going to the medical system now, is there more and more that we can do online? For a lot of times, you know, the way I visualize the doctor's office, we go there and with whatever issue we have, and we have maybe 5 minutes, there's, you know, the 40, 50 people behind us, and saying that in a lot of cases, it does not require the physical meeting of the doc and the patient,
Yeah.
but if we are more proactive in, what we are trying to do is at least on an annual basis, what I call do a bumper to bumper, and and then do that proactively ourselves, or through our doc if we can, but otherwise do it proactively ourselves, and then for the rest do as much of understanding the typical things. Lifestyle,
100%.
extremely important. Understand it. Amazingly, I do all the shopping virtually when
I know I sometimes bump into you at Save on Foods.
But if I would be in Victoria, I do the shopping even there on Saturdays usually. And I shop for my wife, and she is vegan. But what I do usually, I stay on the outside. I don't go to the inside of the store. I stay on the outside with the greens and the vegetables,
stuff,
all those kind of things.
I know, and that's the thing. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with everything that's going on in the world and everything. And as a, I really feel that as a mother. And what can we control? Our little house and our little family. And so that's one thing that my daughter is completely passionate about horses, just like you, but I think she wants to be a large animal vet tech is kind of her passion. But chickens, she decided she wanted to get chickens, and
I love it.
She's got 20 hens. She takes them for bike rides. Her one chicken will just sit on her handlebars and do a 2-kilometer bike ride. It's hilarious. Anyways, and so
amazing.
I know, and so it's, you know what? Maybe we can, our food quality, like having that connection with our food again. And so speaking of that, I brought you some eggs from my daughter. And they're beautiful. Like, I know your wife won't eat them, but aren't those? She has these heritage breeds.
Oh, I love it.
And they all lay different colored eggs, and that's probably a double yolker.
Oh my God.
And we have this one tiny little chicken. He's a Polish, and he's got this crazy hair, and he always lays a tiny little white egg.
Oh my God!
Yeah. And then
I just had to show it to my guest. So here are the different ones from the different chicken. Why do you call this one a double?
I think it'll have 2 of the yolks inside.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? How do you know?
Just sometimes we find the ones that are quite large, like that guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have 2 yolks. I don't know. I haven't researched it. My daughter, this is her jam.
And she's 12.
She's 13. Yeah. And then my 8-year-old. She hires him. She pays him $1 a carton to paint them.
I love it
because he's quite a little artist, and so he's happy to do his art, and she supports him. And
I love it.
She's got a little egg root. Please return me.
Yeah.
You don't have to return it though.
Oh no, I'll get it back to you.
But the quality of our food and having that connection is important. Not all of us have space to do that, but where we live on Cranbrook Hill, we do. I don't eat meat either, but my family does. So we also raise 2 cows, and the kids were out there twice a day feeding them, and and
so important for kids, right?
It is.
Yeah,
because of these things.
7 horses,
work ethic, passion.
Yeah, and then the understanding it and being aware of the. Being around animals, it's amazing how like even with our horses, how interactive they are. Yeah. And if you're ever in Victoria, you have to stop by and see.
Oh yeah, Lexi would love that.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, not being critical necessarily, but the reality of the medical system. We want to do more about it, create more doctors, but I wouldn't, at the risk of being somewhat critical, is that what I see here is that, and universality has good elements to it. On the other hand, I see a lot of people that for every minor thing they go to the doc, they line up, or they go to the emergency.
Yeah.
And so there are other things that we can do where it does not require a medical doctor to take care of it. At the same time, I have lots of friends that are docs and that are saying that the amount of paperwork that is required.
Oh yeah.
That they work the normal daytime as a doc, and then most of the evenings you spend on doing the
paperwork. Yeah.
Doing the paperwork. So there is something in terms of obviously we become much more knowledgeable about ourselves in terms of what is good for us. We have being blessed with this body that is so forgiving up to a certain extent, and then from there on, we have to be more proactive about it, understanding more how important it is, because if you abuse it and you go to a certain point, at that point
it's just too late.
It's too late. And so become knowledgeable and aware of it. That's why the book that is coming out next July, Living Young, Dying Old.
Love that.
Simply what it means to me is the quality of life. Even at 83 right now, I'm still active. I still go to the gym, still ride horses, and at the same time I have a number of companies. And I'm not saying hurrah, hurrah, John. I'm simply saying that I'm aware that I have to take care of my body. I have to make sure the things that I eat are important. Sleep is important. Mental well-being is important. And then things are changing, around the world in terms of becoming more knowledgeable about hormones and all the other things that will
impact our health. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We have to take, if there aren't doctors available, then we've just got to do our best in those aspects, right, with our family, and teaching our kids those things young, making sure they find a sport or something that they're passionate about, which thankfully both my kids are really active and love that. And family dinner, that's such an important piece,
right?
Cooking your own food, growing it if you can, or sourcing it, but then cooking together. Not only are you teaching your kids those skills, but also it's that connection to our food, and sitting around a dinner table. I say that's one of the things that, with how busy we are, people have gotten rid of, but we need to come back to those roots, right?
It brings us together in that type of an environment, right? And so it makes me wonder that that the system. Everybody is talking about it now, and it cannot change overnight. It cannot change, even if we double the size of UNBC, the medical program. And I would love when they do that, and creating an incentive in terms of people staying here. But what else can we do if we say that likely will not solve the problem? The problem has a deeper root rather than that. You're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, if we have nurses or the level of nurses that can take care of a lot of the minor things, and with docs to make sure that they are paid in regards to the amount of effort they have to put in. I know so many say they're totally frustrated with it because they are burned out, and that's not going to change unless we are more proactive in terms of that. I'm not against universality, but I think in a lot of cases people should not have to go to the doc, and if they can't go there, go to the emergency room.
I know, it's crazy.
But it's politically delicate. But anyway, an observation that I make about it is saying, hence my book, and so
I'm excited
saying
about that
it's
one.
your life, it's your body, be proactive, understand it. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated in terms of the more of the food that you eat, that is natural, and get sleep, get exercise, those kind of things.
Exactly. And I think our connection to nature is an important piece. Walking in nature, that rhythmic movement. It's very comforting to us. And yeah, I think a lot of I think first line of defense, if everyone got good sleep and also got outside, got fresh air and some movement, man, think of how much better our world could be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but all we can control is ourselves and our little, teach our kids those things.
Yeah, and at the same time, from my perspective, I speak about it and bring in guests
that makes a big
think
difference.
alive, and and so the book is simply that if I create a book that is this big and it just talks about technicalities, people are not going to read it, and where I'm simply saying that live young and die old, at least it gets the attention, hopefully.
Oh yeah, it will. That'll be a good one.
Yeah. So what else comes to mind?
What else comes to mind?
When you came in here, you had a list with you.
Oh, I know. I think, well, talking about, different sports and things that are, we put our kids in different activities and sports and hope that something takes. And for my daughter, it's curling. Have you ever tried curling?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's just like watching grass grow. I
know, but they love it. I don't know.
If I watch it, it's highly technical and it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting sport.
But it's amazing, like with your kids, 13 and 8.
Yeah.
So to see that, and I have the same. I have 4 grandchildren, boy, girl.
Oh, wow.
And they are all very, very active in a number of areas.
Yeah, what kind of sports are they in?
The soccer and baseball, and then very, very active.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so important for kids to, you put them in all different sports and see what they like and
do other things, and it's sometimes very demanding for a parent. Because people are so busy these days, lives are so challenging for a whole lot of things, but it's so very, very important.
That's what's so nice about Prince George. When I talk to my colleagues in Vancouver, for their kids to go skiing, it's a whole day ordeal and expense.
Extremely
expensive. Whereas here we have this Hart ski hill right in our town. 10 minutes, you're there and you can go skiing for an hour and then come home. Or like where we live, 10 minutes to the soccer fields, 10 minutes to the aquatic center. It's just so convenient. We're not in traffic all the time. So
and the same as me going to work, it takes me 5 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
And that's when the light is red.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it is green, it takes me only 4 minutes, saying, hey guys, why would you want to spend 3 hours, hour and a half to get to work and then and an hour and a half to go back, really?
Yeah, I know. But I mean, we know why we love it, but we gotta,
So but there are huge opportunities in northern British Columbia. There's no question about that. So so from a career perspective, what are your activities now? Primarily, what you do?
Yeah, so working with the resident doctors, I'm still doing the standardized patient thing on the side for Northern Medical Program, but working now with the resident doctors, it's just trying to make sure that when they come to our community, they get childcare, which is another really hard one. I don't know if you've heard there's such a lack of childcare. So how do we have doctors go into the community if we don't have childcare?
Yeah.
So we're working on trying to build a facility with the YMCA where the spots are dedicated for physicians, resident doctors, medical students. So that's a project. Same thing. This line of work has really shown me patience is not my strong suit, but good things take time, and so that's one of the projects that we're slowly working on. Is that, but also just making sure that the residents feel connected to the community. They have, someone they can talk to. They get outside of the hospital and get to enjoy nature and stuff. And so that's a really important piece for me. As we go about it.
So I, somehow wonder, that, the docs, what I see a lot of times, want to go to the major centers, and that is there not enough incentive from a financial perspective to, like if we want to attract expertise here that is critical, then what do we do to make sure that because I hear politically, one of the biggest issues right now is medical care, medical issues related to that, but we don't seem to be doing anything about it in terms, like if you look at it from maybe simplistic for some people's opinions, but if we have to attract them, around the world, there are docs that are qualified.
Yeah.
Do we make it easy enough for them
To come here.
to become qualified here, or at least get on a track that says within a year or 2 years you would? I don't think that is where I take taxis and down the coast and they say, I'm an engineer, I'm a this, and they say, I can't get, hey guys, what is wrong with you?
It's hard to believe. I know.
That should not happen.
Yeah.
And then
It's definitely it.
they've been looking for nurses, qualified nurses. And then I know people that are already in their 40s that have worked in that jobs, and they have to go through schooling like 4 years of this and on and on. I said, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, the human body is the same in this place as this place. Yeah, but there's all these
and why make it so difficult?
Yeah.
So and the same is happening to in our businesses. We have such a huge opportunity here in northern British Columbia to attract investment and further manufacturing or value-added manufacturing. How do we add more value, social and economic, to our resources? Not only lumber, but the other resources.
Yeah.
But we have to, we have the resources, and things are a bit of a challenge right now, but we have the resources. We have the location. North America, the biggest market in the world, right south of us, then close to China, relatively speaking, or Europe. We have that. We have rail, we have air, we have road, and what is then? So I was quite involved with CNC, with the Trade and Technology Center, and I got honored with my name is on the building. But when I did that about 30 or so years ago, I said, this is only a start. We have to create skill sets.
Yeah.
We have all the things that I just said, but what will be lacking for people to invest is access to a skilled workforce. And then if we make it even more difficult, same as it applies to docs and all the other kind of things, then you will not find the people that will, go into those careers. And then that means that we entrepreneurs are not going to invest capital in those regions, because if we can't find skill sets, it's not going to happen. So when I wrote this book, actually, then you read this one, you saw this one.
Yeah, I have.
So when I wrote the book, then I kind of felt there was a piece missing, saying, okay, John, okay, interesting, that's good interviews with good people and about ADHD and other things, and so where do we go from here? And so I was working already to the point where the book was ready to go to the printers. We had to get it print ready, and we do our own distribution and our own everything around it. And so I was on the flight, and from Victoria to Vancouver, actually, overseas flight, 12 minutes.
Oh yeah, exactly.
30 minutes.
Nice commute.
Gate to gate.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was sitting next to a fellow, and he said, he said, I don't know if you remember me, and I said, he said, I'm Tom Romer. I'm the VP, academic at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. And I said, oh yeah, I remember. And so, and he said, I saw you wrote a book, or you talked it last time, so Against All Odds, and then he asked me about, so I told him about this book that I'm writing, and I said that is something that with ADHD. He said, yeah, it's something interesting that we are doing right now, and that is, in particular as it relates to certification, is they call it micro certification. So if they have a course that would take 4 years to do, they focus on the 6 months that it would take just on those issues, and then gradually work on the others. It's a whole different approach to learning and teaching.
Awesome.
And so I then said to him, I'd like him to write a little piece about that in my book, or and that's in it as well. Yeah. It's a new direction for teaching.
Yeah, and so maybe that same idea has to go into medicine or different.
And that's
right?
that's the point that I'm making.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's.
Anything else that comes to mind?
I don't know. Excited about winter starting.
Yeah, it is close by. So nice. I'm going to sign one of your books
thank you.
For
thank
this.
you. Yeah.
And I signed the other ones that you have already, right?
Yeah.
So
I actually picked those up out at the.
Were you there at the
nature park? Good Sir Nature Park.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. The 2 books. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
So I'll give you this one here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And then you have the other ones.
Thank you. Yep, I sure do. Thank you.
Angela,
Thank
it
you.
was a pleasure to have you as a guest.
Thanks.
Thank you.